Welcome to episode 77 of a master's degree in rolling terribly. I'm your host, Detty. Joining me this week, a man who swapped healing for hitting, led the damage charts, and still couldn't carry us to victory. Gaz! Say hi, Gaz.
Hi, guys. Yeah, well, I did my job. What the fuck was everyone else doing?
Oh, you weren't. Wait, we didn't have a support that was going to help us with our, staying alive longer and, crowd control and all that kind of stuff.
Supporty stuff, yeah.
Yeah, it did too much damage.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, sorry, I'll have to turn it back and be boring next week, so.
Be boring. Oh, we'll have a little chat about that later, actually.
Ooh, spicy.
On today's episode, after our dirt sheet, we'll be chatting about our scenario for the week, which is scenario 87, the collection. And we're going to have a little segment on character enjoyment.
Ooh, okay. Character enjoyment, yes.
Character enjoyment. So, very quickly, I've been a little lazy. About a week and a half ago, I think we had our amDirt chats with a particular member of our community, and it was a great chat, and I still haven't finished editing it and putting it up. So hopefully by the time this goes up, that will be out. And that's also going to be on YouTube, which is something that I've been wanting to do, but all of our past ones, we've just kind of done audio only. And I have an issue, putting up an audio podcast on the main YouTube page with nothing there.
Nothing there, yeah. Especially if it goes for so long. Like if it's just short.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that makes sense.
People want to see talking heads.
Yeah, talking heads, that's it. Maybe we just need to get stand-in. You know those animated talking heads that people use?
Oh,
they're just like,
I thought you were looking into that.
Oh, like a year and a half ago, then we just went, we'll just record ourselves, right? Because it's less work.
Well, I suppose people talking heads is like better, more realistic when it's actually our heads.
Yeah, that's it. We need animated versions of our heads that we can just chuck up there.
Anyone know anyone that can do that? Please get in contact with us. My head is quite easy to replicate. I think you just take an egg and what looks like a mo.
I was wondering about that, as I'm sure our poor amDirt's chat listener community member is like, just
what's going on?
What's up? And they're like, did they delete it? Did it? You know, like on TV shows, on game shows, how there's always that warning. I think that it's not 100% chance to go to air. So I think with some of the, maybe it's not how they do it anymore, but I know, I think back in the day, some shows were like, they'd record it, but they wouldn't put everything to air. Like, so I don't know if maybe there was a deal where you didn't get all of the prizes or some of the prizes or things if it didn't go to air for whatever reason. You'd be sitting there waiting for your episode to come on. It just never comes on.
Yeah, that'd be weird because I think game shows, they record like several episodes in the one sitting, right, with the crowd, and they just move people around a little bit and to make it look like separate days. And then do you know what day you're going to be on, or are you stuck there watching every episode until, that's me. I was like, oh my God, it's Mum. Yeah,
I don't know. I've never looked into it because I don't really care, but I have a vague recollection of somebody talking about if they don't get picked or they don't go to air, then they don't get the prizes. So they, there's a thing. So I'm not sure. I'm sure every contract was different. Anything to get out of like paying people, right?
Yeah. Well, if it wasn't obvious, I'm starting to put together, just based on all the quizzes I've been doing, like a game show, a Frosthaven 1 with a live studio audience and, just budgeting for that and trying to work out how much all that will cost and, what's the ordering. Do we have to record 5 in a row? Like, are you going to be really over it by the third one? Because you're going to cop an absolute, mental bashing, I guess.
Oh, okay. That sounds rough. Do I win $1 million?
No.
Oh.
There is a cash prize.
There's a
of 1,000 morale. Like you will never be happier than when you get 1,000 morale.
Well, I mean, any axe nuts?
Is that the new thing you hate? Now you want morale?
That's it.
I want to put a bit more into as we're tying up the end of the, I guess, campaign. I want to put together a couple more of our traditional tier lists, which I make it sound like we've got a huge backlog of tier lists. We don't. But I want to put together, obviously, the top 10 discussions on scenarios. I'm very much looking forward to sitting down with you because we've got such a big pool of scenarios now that we've done and how much it's, changed our original top 10 best and top 10 worst. I had to put them together into that document thing again, so that you have to go through all of them again.
Yeah, it's really tricky now, right? Because there is so many more. I'm wondering if 10 is enough, but then you can't do too many because it ends up being too much of the field.
Well, you can just do that countdown thing where you're like, well, we've done 87 scenarios, so number 87, scenario 14, right? And you just go backwards. And knowing how much you and I fill the air, it'll only be a 5-hour video.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. No, it'll be interesting to see because I am wondering how many from the original list are still on there and how many have been memorable since. Like, I know there have been some that I've really liked since we recorded that. It's just going to be putting them up against each other and also trying to remember the experience of 12 months ago. I mean, there's going to be some on the list. I'm like, why did I put that as number 5? That's crazy. Like, that one was shit.
Yeah, it'll be interesting when we revisit, I guess, the criteria. Like, we're going to have to be fairly clear with how we're going to have that criteria there, just because there are going to be some real odd choices, but that's because our experience, right, versus how well it's designed and all of that. We'll have to flesh a lot of that out. But if you have any ideas or input on any of that, let us know. If you also want a tier list idea, if you want to rank, like, I don't know, Geminate cards, like, that'll get butts in seats, right?
Yeah. But no, I was going to say that if people have ideas for tier lists that they'd like us to go through and discuss, now that we've seen most of the game, like, you could probably pick most of the features roughly, and we won't be spoiling stuff. Because that's one of the things we've been really conscious of not doing, like, characters classes, PQs, things that we hadn't fully fleshed out yet before we did it. It kind of seems a bit incomplete. Like, you don't want to do a character, even if it's just an enjoyment perspective, like, not what's the best, but just like, what have we noticed has been, I don't know, the most fun, the most difficult, whatever it is. When you hadn't seen 2 or 3 of the classes actually played through, it kind of feels a bit hollow. So,
no, very fair. I think what I would like to do in the tier list also is some of the smaller tier lists, to split them up between you and I. So we've actually got, like, the standard tier list, but you'll use monsters, for example. And if we just broke down the Algox ones, having Algox Archer, but with a purple background, a purple frame, and then one with a green frame. And then we can put them in the tier list together, but separately, depending on how we individually, like, I represent the purple one, you represent the green one.
Yeah. So, so do separate tier lists like we've done with the top 10s.
But in the same tier list.
Yeah,
if that makes sense. Yeah, okay. So, yeah, let us know any ideas. I definitely got my thinking head on. Editing head is a little bit delayed, but I'll work something out. Some small errata from last week's scenario was, I think Iron and Wine mentioned that they didn't, the necklace situation, the protection, the amulets and all of that. In the special rules, there was a bit where, you could use the loot one to loot either the necklace or the loot tokens. But anything within range 1, you can actually take the necklace off a enemy.
Yeah, okay, I do remember saying that, yeah.
Yeah, which is weird because I read that special rule box to myself so many times, even after and preparing for the show notes, and I never caught it. So annoying. But, I mean, that would have made it easier.
They would have, but so in traditional amDirt fashion, we just made sure it was harder, right?
Absolutely. So we will head off to scenario 87. Like we did. We headed off. We're not going to head off now because that'd be weird. Yeah.
I just had a thought.
Uh-huh.
Imagine a scenario, right, where there is, I don't know, an object, an idol, some kind of MacGuffin, right? It doesn't matter what it is. And the special rule on the scenario is all loot 1 abilities will always target this MacGuffin, right? Okay. And it can be looted off people. So similar to, like, what we're talking about with this thing, where you can loot the amulets off monsters. But there are monsters that have loot abilities, right? So imagine that you had, I know Vermlings do. Vermling Scouts, I reckon, have a loot, and I'm not sure if there's any other monsters. So maybe this doesn't work.
But it would be a Bailey Scout, because I think they might use the Scout deck.
So, okay, yeah, cool. So, like, what would be funny is if there was this kind of situation where you needed to be holding on to this thing, or whoever had it, that side's faction. So, if, like, the monsters have it, all the monsters get buffed. If the players have it, all the players get buffed, right? and if something dies, then it passes to the closest friendly unit. So, like, if you kill the monster, it actually just goes to another monster type thing as they throw it away. But have this kind of thing bouncing around, but with the enemies have the ability to actually take it as well.
Yeah, no, I like that. I really like that. It's because right now, yeah, the loot things are only annoying for removing either gold off the ground in Gloomhaven or items, etc. But I guess it makes that a little scarier for that one scenario in that one, instance.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, because usually the loot card that the monsters draw is just a do nothing turn, right? You're like, oh, thank God the 9 Vermling scouts aren't doing anything now. They're just going to jump around and loot, which is annoying because they can take your gold and stuff, but it's not as much of an issue. You'd rather lose gold than lose the scenario. So you're having a scenario specifically where that loot becomes really dangerous would be hilarious. I think having this like kind of MacGuffin bouncing around and then like, trying to get it back to do something.
Yeah. No, I actually like the fact that you've taken it apart from a monster that, like you say, it doesn't really impact anything and just made it really cool. I like the idea of more looting, not used in the traditional way of looting. Like for example, you have a condition, like the idol, and every time you hold it for every round, you lose 1 health plus 1 for every round you've held it. So 1, 2, 3, 4. But in order to take it off someone else, you have to use a loot token. Loot card. A loot ability to then be able to pull it off them so that they get some relief, and then I don't know, try and get it onto the monsters that have their own loot thing, but then you'll never get it back. You'd have to tweak it out. I don't know.
Yeah. So yeah, just ideas to play around with that. But yeah. Anyway, continue.
Now, I don't, because we've changed our setup out there, and I went out there and had a brief look, like a real man look, and I couldn't really find what I needed. So I'm not 100% sure what our road event was this week. I don't know how important it was.
So you've forgotten as well.
Yeah. Look, if I can tell you right now, traditionally, and I know this may be hard to believe, but if we go back to all 77 episodes that we've done on scenario recaps, I probably would remember 3 of the road events if I didn't have the card usually available.
Yeah. So. Yeah, so it's not just me.
No.
Did we have one? We did. Because we went out. Right.
Yeah,
I can't remember either. I have vague recollections of a thing.
Yeah, we did something, and something happened,
and we had to choose between
something,
an option or a different option.
Yeah,
I feel like it was helping someone or not helping them.
Yeah, possibly.
So interesting. All right. Well, we can add that as an edit. Maybe you can put it up on the screen for people who care.
Nah.
Okay.
That's fine. Well, it's weird because we've gotten to a stage where I don't know how impactful that. They're still interesting. Road events are still interesting. Outpost events are still interesting. I don't know if it's because we're hitting the tail end where some of the importance of some of those things maybe drops off a little bit.
I feel like a conversation we had was that something came up that we'd only just had happened, and I was just like, "Oh wow, that thing just happened."
Oh yeah,
right. And we're like, "Oh, it's because the summer event road event deck is like really small at the moment,
Tiny.
So there's a good chance that we're getting those back." Do you remember what it is now?
Yeah. It's because of the guard thing that we lined up. So we set up a special forces unit last time, and now I think one of them came up to us, or there was an issue with one of them. I don't know. It wasn't.
Yeah, well, that's right. We were leaving town, The dude's like, "Oh, fight me! I want to join the special forces." We're like, "What are you doing, mate? Like, just to get in the line over there and apply." Like, no, he didn't want to. So, I think we talked him down.
Yeah. And then it just added another card to the thing, right? Yeah.
To the guard deck. See, so how much fun was that? We kind of like we worked it out.
Yeah, but then people had to listen to that.
They love it. That's what they're all about. If people didn't want to listen to us talk shit, then they wouldn't be like 70 episodes in. Yeah.
I don't know. You're telling them.
And that's when people realized they were wasting their time and turned off. So.
100%.
All right, anyway, so after the road event, that was very meaningful.
So why don't we pick this scenario? Because actually a listener suggested it. They were like, do 87. So we were looking at some of the options we had, and this was one of them. So that's the reason we did. We checked out previously on because obviously job postings are very difficult to remember based on the name of the scenario. Captain Olmsted. By the way, I just want to point out, I'm using this weekly, and we are using this before every single scenario, Dwarf. So this has become one of the greatest things that you've put together. And like, I can't get over how much we are using it. And I'm hoping, it's not a matter of I'm hoping other people are using it, but people who are struggling to remember like we are, there is an option out there, and it really does, like, just, it makes the scenario better. It actually does.
100%.
It feels like it has a purpose.
Yeah, it already, I forget that we didn't have this for 98% of like the campaign, and like wonder why.
Yep. Yeah. Let's take that, Dwarf.
No, so, like, it's not from a dig. It's just like it's such a really important kind of, or useful tool. I won't say important, but useful tool, that it kind of, it's just bizarre that it took that long to figure out that could be created to help people. Like, you know, just stuff like, you know, I feel the same with like the flow chart for the items and a whole bunch of other kind of supplement things that have been provided. It's just like, yeah, it's really good. So yeah, good job, Dwarf. Keep going. And if you haven't looked at it, do it now, right now.
Oh, does that mean I have to link it?
No, well, you should. Yeah, we should be linking it all the time. Okay. If you go to our Discord, it's actually linked in the Frosthaven, pinned in the Frosthaven channel.
Oh, that means I have to link our Discord again for this episode. I haven't done it in a while.
Okay.
I'll do that.
All right.
Captain Olmsted brought you to an Inox girl, found nearly frozen just outside of Frosthaven. She told him the collector has been holding her and her family for weeks. The girl managed to tell you where this collector is. What's interesting is I know you read that. You read that out to the table whilst I was setting it up. I didn't hear any of that. So once we finished the scenario and I saw it all play out, I was like, oh, that's really cool. I wonder why we were here. And then I went back and read this myself for putting the notes together. And yeah, see? So it's worked out. Scenario 87, the collection. Is it the collection or the collector? Oh, this is the collection. This was designed by Dan Patrice and writing by Crystal Mazur. Now, Dan Patrice, I'm always interested in these guest designers and finding out whether they're a board game designer or a content creator or where they come from and how they're sourced and all of that kind of stuff. So Dan Patrice is actually the host of another podcast called the Geek All-Stars podcast. I haven't listened to any of it, but based on the descriptions and the list, they've got like probably on their way to 300 episodes. It's more of a variety board gaming podcast from what I can see. Discussions and topics just centered around the hobby. So very cool. I have not checked it out because I have very little time to listen to a lot of podcasts. So other than listening to ours, which I'm sure people prioritize as soon as it comes out. Look, I see the numbers as soon as I post it. But yeah, it's cool that there are other content creators out there making, you know, content for things that they love. Now, this is where I have a funny issue. Because I was doing some background research on Dan Patrice, which is how I found that podcast, and he's also contributed a bit to the BGG forums. And I'm going to go off on a little rant because it annoyed me a little bit, and I want to get a couple of things off my chest. So there's a thread on Frosthaven BGG on the forums that talks about scenarios that are bad, long, far too difficult, or annoying, and people are discussing a list of scenarios and why. You know, this one was too long, this one was too this and that. And Dan Patrice had to write something in there at a certain stage. This thread is 14 pages long, right? And people are still adding to it all the time with new scenarios and new scenarios that annoy them or they're too long or whatever. And there's a lot of back and forth going on in there. There are a lot of people that are jumping onto the guest designer bad scenario bandwagon, right? Specifically the guest designing ones. To which Dan then came in and cleared up misconceptions a bit with the initial, you know, design and vision of creating a scenario, maybe centered around a theme, and how designs then get reviewed by the Cephalofair team, right? To basically give them the final sign-off on a guest design scenario, because it's essentially out of their hands. They've come up with a concept and they put it together, and then things get tweaked. The rest of it, whatever they, you know, it's not something they can control. To a lot of the people that are shitting all over the guest scenarios and their apparent failing attempts to design something a little different, it's okay to hate a scenario. It's okay to be overwhelmed by rules. And if you need assistance from the community or to understand a certain situation or to search for a strategy to beat a certain scenario, it's fine, all right? But constantly bitching about the fact that Frosthaven scenarios have too many special rules, or how good Gloomhaven was and that you've beaten it 32 times with 87 different class combinations, and it was the best time of your life, and you were looking forward to Frosthaven, and it's not the same as Gloomhaven, actually baffles me and it irritates me. So here are a couple of quotes from it. Quote, bitterly disappointed with the number of guest scenarios in Frosthaven. We dodged these all the time in Gloomhaven, and now they appear everywhere and seem to be mandatory in some cases. Is that supposed to be some kind of punishment? I don't get it at all. It feels like half the game was outsourced to people who have not actually played it. End quote. The only people it punishes are the people not willing to explore all of the potential systems it has in place. And those systems will be received in a variety of ways from good to bad. Gaz and I have come away from a scenario thinking, wow, that was a slog and a mess. I wouldn't want to go through all that again, but I'm glad we got to experience it because it was so different and it spiced things up and it fed our brains. Another quote. I struggled to understand how something like Scenario 66, which is Elemental Cores, the one with 6 of the elemental doors, and you go in and you retrieve the core from the end of the room and bring it back to the middle.
Yeah, that's the one. Just as a reminder, that was the one that was, I did a lot of walking, right?
Moving bodies was your walking one.
No, I did walking for like 3 scenarios. But yeah, I remember that. You opened it, we picked the doors for the things we thought we didn't want to fight, and then we went from there, right?
And it makes the element strong as well.
Yeah.
So I struggle to understand how something like Scenario 66 can exist in an allegedly play-tested environment. Setting aside whether it's even possible for certain parties to produce 150 points of movement while getting pelted by demons, is anyone at all just utterly thrilled by the prospect of managing 6 different monster decks for this scenario? And they all interact heavily with the element board. Wow. Fun. End quote. 6 different monster decks isn't exactly a new concept in the Haven series. I mean, Monster Admin AI is baked into the core gameplay of a DM-less dungeon crawler game, and 150 points of movement, like, I get if you are comfortable with your deck and don't want to sub out your amazing level 7 card that allows you to do some crazy half-broken thing. But as most people have acknowledged, the Haven series' biggest and most fun attribute, according to most, is the tactical combat, right? Not all those extra things that they have to do. Like, you're presented with an overall goal or challenge where you can plan an overall strategy, and then the rooms and special rules give you an ever-changing game state or puzzle that your party needs to work together tactically to overcome. Like, it's literally the main point. So many of these people bang on about that the game is tactical combat is gone, and now we're doing mental gymnastics trying to work out why the goal is to move Object 1 from A to B whilst trying to clear and survive against rooms full of monsters. I mean, treat it as a kill-all whilst you're moving your objective. If Scenario 66 had a kill-all objective only, how is that any different or more fun than Scenario 1, the Black Barrow? Okay, different monsters. All right, fair enough. So once you complete it, just swap out 2 demons with hounds and polar bears. And bolt shooters. Oh, fun again. Okay, so is this what you wanted? Like, why can't the whole game be like this? Have I got news for you? But there's a super secret deck of cards that came in your box that's going to blow your mind and give you infinite game. But first, let's paint a picture.
So Isaac, who's this for?
Who's what for?
This solution, the one that you're going through.
The people who want a more kill-all and they don't want all of these extra rules.
Right, people who don't want to play with rules. Right, yeah, got
it. Yeah, the extra rules, the special rules, right? They're ruining the fun rules.
Mm-hmm.
So let's paint a picture. Isaac is at home planning Third Haven. All right? The story's been written, the world has been created, and the characters and classes are getting fleshed out. He alone designs 150 scenarios. He alone. And due to its traditional campaign structure, you generally won't see them all. All the scenarios consist of 3 to 5 different tile sets and a bunch of, selected bunch of monsters. And the goal is to kill all monsters, collect loot, XP, to progress your expected prosperity track, to unlock new gear, classes, etc. That's it. He's done. And it's shipped. You receive it. You're excited. I'm excited. I can tell you right now, I'd probably be like amazingly excited to receive this 3rd version. Until around the 10th kill-all scenario, with variety switching up in the setup, like instead of the big boat tile, we get a large rectangular tile instead. And instead of the Algox Archer, Algox Guard, and Algox Priest, let's swap out the Algox Priest for an Algox Scout. Done. revolutionary design. This is why the game comes with a deck of cards to create a random scenario layout for you to, I don't know, practice your card combos and synergies. You can literally make infinite amounts of dungeons without all the complicated rules and annoying objectives. Open door, blow up room. Open door, blow up room. Profit. Problem solved. Now it's literally Tactical Combat the board game. Cephalophae Games introduces Third Haven, designed by Isaac Childress, and random scenario deck. I mean, you could probably just buy Third Haven, take all the class boxes out of it, items, etc., grab your Gloomhaven random scenario deck, or if you're feeling extra spicy, your Frosthaven random scenario deck, and have a blast. Next game, new classes, rinse and repeat. Endless game. From my point of view, every single scenario we've seen lately, from Titan to dealing with Gem and her mates through crazy card bending and hand management rules, have been incredibly rewarding and fascinating to experience. And I'm so happy that nearly every single scenario we've done, we get to, read the special rules at the table and say, okay, boys, this seems super tricky. We can't do the same tricks this week due to this immunity rule, or the Blink Blade has been mind controlled by a space dog, or how do we overcome this insane situation? And I believe it is this that guest scenario designers are trying to fulfill. So why have input from different members of the community to customize and use their creative juices to create a bunch of unique scenarios with different flavors, coming up with crazy ideas using the basic tools that the game provides that Isaac wouldn't have even thought of? Or you could put all the tiles, monsters, etc. into some AI automated kill-all scenario generator that you'll never need a guest designer, ever. I acknowledge I am taking this, things to the extreme. And I enjoy seeing an opinion discussion on a subject I enjoy. But we all know you can't please absolutely everybody. I love and enjoy Frosthaven as much, so much, that I can't even look at Gloomhaven again. At least not until 2.0. But I know that there are people on the other side of the coin who tried Frosthaven and barely got through a quarter of the game before packing it up and doing the Wolverine lay on the bed with framed picture of Gloomhaven meme. My final point. If Isaac took most of the scenario design from Gloomhaven because it was just received so well and didn't mess with the formula, and continued to make incredibly similar sequels, mark my words, he will be accused of being lazy and a sellout. Embrace the change. Appreciate that the formula is being expanded on, because as long as Isaac and his team are trying to keep things fresh, I'll forever know the true love and passion that went into a project may not be for everyone, but at least it shows they are actively trying to experiment and improve a system that has captivated hundreds of thousands of people. So Gaz, should we do the random scenario deck variant where we use the deck to make 50 scenarios and play all 50 of them to see how many we can one-shot?
No.
No. So yes, that's it's just a situation that just kind of irks me, that there's just so much want and need for the bare minimum almost, where there's this space that from character design that's obviously taken risks. Why would you not want this expanded upon?
Yeah, I think people don't like change, right?
But then the other half of the coin is people will want change because it's lazy.
No, well, that's exactly it, right? If Frosthaven was just Gloomhaven again, then people would. I think we talked about this months ago when we were looking at the things that make Frosthaven bad and why it's terrible. And yeah, 100%, people would just be like, "Oh no, this is too boring. Nothing's the same. I may as well just play Gloomhaven, etc." And if you're doing that, I mean, a viable option, which is what a lot of games do, is release 18 new classes for Gloomhaven. They could have done that. They could have just said, you know what, here's 18 new classes, here's a new item deck, here's a couple of extra special rules like add in Brittle, Ward, etc. Now just play Gloomhaven again, right? And people would have done it, but the argument would have been but it would have been cool if you'd put new scenarios in, right? So I feel like you can, because they did do an expansion for Gloomhaven, right? But I don't think it had any new classes in it. I know you can, it had one. Was that the X one?
No. I don't know what it's called. Diviner or something.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I think I've heard of that. So, and I know you can jam in Jaws of the Lion into it as well, and you can play through that. So that's kind of what you do if you don't want a whole new game. But yeah, I feel like it's people picking one or two scenarios out of 150 and saying like bad game because.
Like, I could have definitely quoted like a bazillion things in there that was specifically targeting, I guess, the guest designers, just because they're trying to one-up each other and trying to make everything more convoluted and complicated for the purpose of, you know, maybe their time in the light or something like that, right? I just think it's ridiculous. Like, people, it's an appreciation thing, and it will tie into our topic towards the end about enjoying classes, right? There's a difference between being able to appreciate something and not and being okay if it's not for you. That's fine. Like, that was my experience with Intrepid. I appreciated the board game design, right? I actually did. I appreciated the board game design, but I just didn't like the playing of that game for me. And I think that's just something that people need to be like, well, this is brave and it's, you know, it's brave, it's different. And they're trying. They actually are trying to, you know, it's a passion project. Gloomhaven always was, right? It was something that I absolutely loved. And you can tell in his overall design, it's not half-baked. There are publishers out there who will do exactly what you said at the very start of what you just said about just coming out with a couple of extra classes or whatever and throwing them into Gloomhaven and selling it for $99.95 and just going, here you go. Here's all of these extra little expansion kind of things that you can add on that are potentially half-baked.
Yeah, that's it. Like that's an easy way out, and I think it was brave in regards to Frosthaven, and they pushed the envelope because I think that's what you do with design, right? You want to push the envelope. There wasn't enough design space in Gloomhaven just to make Gloomhaven again, really, without it again since it's such a long game, and so they tried something, and parts of Frosthaven are better than Gloomhaven, and there's probably some things that I won't say are worse, but maybe weren't an improvement on Gloomhaven. And we've talked about that at length. But overall, the game it does way more than Gloomhaven did, and it's different. It's a different game. Like if somebody was like, hey, and let's just say 2.0 comes out, to use the comparison, but if someone's like, I only have time in my life to play one of these two games, which should I do? Then I think it is a choice. I don't think there is one that is just better than the other. I think they both will appeal to different things, people. And that's what I'm looking forward to with 2.0, because I also don't think I could play through Gloomhaven 1 again. And I could, right? Like, it's not like, oh, I would never, but I don't think that I would enjoy it. Playing through it already, like twice now. Also playing through Frosthaven. I want something else. Like I want some slightly more complexity to the classes, to the scenarios, and to the overall game. So yeah, I'm baffled by the fact that people are just going to lump guest designers into a bucket of like bad. Although I'm not, because it's the internet, right? So anything that's not exactly in the kind of, you know, find a reason to jump on a minority or a niche of something, and people will do it. The only thing that I would be interested in, because I don't know, is, and I don't have the data on this, is like having a list of all the scenarios that, like, we'll say Isaac designed, but I'm assuming his team designed, and then having a list of all the scenarios that a guest designed. Because I would hazard a guess to say that there are as many equally bad, and I'll use bad in inverted commas, like unfun scenarios that the core team have designed as there are that guest designers have designed, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, and that's just purely going by the fact that I remember our first 25% through of Frosthaven, and I imagine most of those would probably be designed, the core ones by the core team, and there were some that I didn't like. So like it's a fallacy. People do this all the time, right? It's just like, oh, we did 3 guest scenarios in a row, they were bad. They must all be bad then. But remember the good old days when everything else was great? It's like, well, sure. But yeah, I don't know. It's the internet, right? Like,
it's kind of like if you and I, for some reason, all right, we're just told, hey, we would like you guys to design a scenario. Okay, we don't think you're very smart, so we don't think you guys can do a chain, but we'll give you one. We'll give you 102. There you go. You can do scenario 102. And the basic premise is this, it's job posting, whatever, come up with it. We don't know what the systems are in place for them to go, it needs to include a special rule here, it needs to have this particular monster type. We don't know what they have to work with or what theme they have to work with, whether or not that's something they come up with on their own and they are formulating the job posting, or whether or not it's purely the design itself. And if we get to design the scenario, what is our rules? Like, you get 4 tiles, up to 2 to 4, and then you just have to use the math equation to populate it, and then that's it. Is that fun, or do we then, like, of course you want to create a twist, right? You want to create a twist, or you want to create something in there that's going to make it stand out on its own instead of a 3-room tank and spank.
But that's I mean, this is the whole problem with this argument, is that I don't, for some reason it seems, and I didn't read this thread, but going by what you said, the idea is that internal Silverfare games create kill all scenarios with no rules, and then guest creators create scenarios with heaps of bloat. Like, I don't think that's true at all.
No.
So the whole argument of just this is better than that is invalid. I don't know. I think it's just people being angry and not liking aspects of the game. Which
is fine.
Yeah, no, it's totally fine. I mean, this is the thing, right? It is fine, and people go online to vent, and that's also fine. It's not like it's stopping or changing anything. It's kind of just is also there. The thing I find funny, though, was something you mentioned earlier, which is the tactical element of it. I actually think that movement component of Frosthaven is the least fun component of doing a scenario. I like the tactical element but if it's purely just move heaps, right? Like, anytime you get into a situation where you're like, oh, we've cleared this room, and now we have to run down this long corridor and get into this room. We have to spend 2 or 3 turns moving. That isn't fun. Right. No. It's a part of the puzzle, which is fine. It's not need to be there. I'm not saying get rid of it, but I'm like, if you were ranking all of the things you do in a scenario, long movement is probably one of the least. Okay. I also think looting is one of the least. It's not fun. Right. But again, it's not to say good or bad. It's just to say, in a scale of things, what are the fun things? And this is probably going to come up with this mystery conversation later on around fun and characters that we're going to have. So I have no idea. But yeah, I don't know. It's everyone enjoys different things, and some people love to hate on things on the internet. I think those two things collide, and then you get rants on a forum.
I do wonder, though, like, I know a lot of publishers, and we're talking digital games as well. Like, there's what we call, or what they call the noisy few, the ones that are the most up in arms, whereas maybe the majority of the player base either don't have an opinion, they're just quietly enjoying it or whatever. The part that worries me is that the noisy few will be noisy enough to create the change. So, and I don't think there's a lot of evidence of it actually happening, but that's the part of me that there's a level of fear there.
Yeah.
That it's kind of like, oh crap, we've messed up. These people are angry despite the fact that we've sold hundreds of thousands of copies of this game. Let's change it up and do something different to make them happy.
Yeah, I think all of that comes down to how your team manages feedback, right? Like, putting anything out there is you're going to get more negative feedback than positive, right? It's just the way things work.
Yeah.
And I think it's how your team take that on board, right? I mean, all feedback is valid, as in it exists. So you can't say it doesn't exist. It's whether the thing is actually right for the design and the direction you want to take it. Because people are going to ask for stuff. And we've seen this. We've played countless of MMOs and games where people are like, oh, I want this. And you're like, oh, that would be really bad for the game. Like, it just would make the game go in a different direction. And right, when people want to pull things in 10 different directions, you can't please them all. Right. And that's why it matters which direction the design team want to take it in. Right. What game do they want to make? Yeah. And then you take the feedback from the people who are giving you ideas that align with how you want to take the game, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Someone said, oh, get rid of the cards and the AMD and turn to dice. Well, that's a different game now. Like, that's a valid feedback if people want to do that. But it's an element of the game that they don't want, that the design team have chosen. So that feedback becomes irrelevant. It's like, but maybe the feedback could be like, oh, we want more randomness in the AMD. Great. Well, you can implement that. That's where feedback becomes useful versus not useful, right? Don't tell me what the solution is. Tell me what the problem you're having is, right? And then you can address that.
Yeah. No, good points. Yeah.
Anyway. Now we'll launch into a tirade of why we hated this scenario.
Golf 87. The scenario is complete when all enemies in it are dead. Oh, that's funny. I guess designer with a kill all. Oh, okay.
Yeah, cool. I know. You should have posted that one.
Scenario effect, there is none. Monster combinations, we have Algox Archer, Algox Guard, Lord Help Me, Flaming Blade Spinner, Lurker Claw Crusher, Polar Bear, and Steel Automaton. What the actual F? Sure. All 6 of those get along. Is that 6? That is 6. Okay. Managing 6 monster decks.
Yeah, I know. I can't believe we got through this scenario, right? Like the whole session.
First room setup is a giant tile with 2 archers, 2 guards, and they're surrounding a trap with a door behind them. Special rules: set up the boss monster ability deck, although you won't use it yet. What are your thoughts on this scenario's giant, complicated list of special rules, guys?
I mean, I actually I don't know why they do this, and we've talked about this before. Why do you have to know that you got to set the monster deck up here? Is this because like people might be like traveling and they don't want to take all the components, so they read the scenario?
Leave it behind, yeah.
Like, is that it?
I don't know.
Because there's from knowing how this scenario played out, there was no point in which we came and we got to a point where like, oh, lucky we had that monster deck already set up for when it becomes relevant to the scenario. Like, it must be you have to put everything at the start so people can like plan and then pack up shit, right? Like, hey, I'm going to get the board game ready for my group, and then I need to make sure that I don't have shit everywhere. So therefore, I'll pack all the rest of the stuff we don't need, and we've just got this kind of tight little pile of, because they have the tokens and stuff that you need as well, yeah.
What do you mean?
On the setup thing, it tells you which like overlay tiles,
yeah,
and yeah. So I imagine maybe that must be it, right? This is all you're going to need. You can pack everything up if you want to.
I suppose.
So get the monster deck ready. But as regards to the 0 special rules, yeah, it's fine. It's great.
Yeah, okay.
We had this last week, right? Was it last week where we're like, start of the thing, no special rules?
Oh, yeah, maybe was it the unknown now, or was that a different one?
Maybe it was the other one that was unknown, yeah. But we've had it a couple of times where it's been nothing. This one, there was just nothing, right? Yeah. But yeah, it's fine. It's good. It's like, hey, let's go kill shit.
Maybe it's an excitement thing. It's more letting you know that. I mean, they could have easily waited until the end and then gone, oh, you spawn a boss situation, grab the deck. And if you've already got it set up, it saves you 3.5 seconds, which is... it could be a lot, but also it's whetting the appetite for, oh, we don't know why we need this.
Yeah,
that's kind of, so I mean, that's what we kind of got out of it a little bit. Challenge cards, we didn't have any. Why is that?
Because we forgot?
No, because Mark will retire if we complete another one.
Oh, okay. I thought we forgot.
And he wants to hang on just a little bit longer. Do you know why?
Because he forgot?
No, because he respect gas.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I forgot.
I'll go into that in a sec. Pets wise, we had Colleague of the Rending Drake, and we had Stu the Snow Imp. Rending Drake is the one that all attacks are melee attacks at wound, and Stu the Snow Imp is in initiative order. Everyone gets to move 2. Our party is me on Astral. We have Gaz on the Shards. I think we're both
level 7,
8 and 7.
I'm 7. Yep.
Yeah. Mark is 8, I think, on his Kelp. Still on the Kelp, and Phil is still on the Blink Blade, probably level 5. Apparently, he tells us that he can't activate Super Saiyan mode until level 6. Or was it 7?
Level 7 or 8. Or he's like, I still need 2 or 3 levels. It's like, well, dude, you weren't level 9 last time you were like deleting entire scenarios. But
yeah,
I think he's just using that as an excuse until he goes large. Like he had some pretty big turns this scenario. I was like, see, you can do it. He's like, yeah. And then he had some shit turns. He's like, see? I was like, no, you don't get both. You can't both be Super Saiyan and not. Or I suppose that's kind of how it works. But yeah, anyway.
Oh, well, before he wasn't competing with any other DPS as well.
That's true. He
the first lot.
Yeah.
Any changes to deck or anything like that? Any cards, notable things that you wanted to try? Anything like that?
I did. I got my level 7 card, which I can't remember what it is. Oh, that can go invisible. Yay. So I got that, and I also chopped out. I had already for last week changed out some of my cards to be more DPS, like just more damage over some support stuff. And so I did that a little bit more, but I didn't have to make that much of a change, I think, from my my hand last week.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Every single time I go into a scenario, it's like, what infusions do I bring? I like that decision process of trying to work out what monster types we have in there. What do I bring? And then the next one is, do I bring the sword? And then do I bring the cards for Cassandra and Sophia? Do I, work with synergizing with them? But this time I decided not to bring them because, I don't know, everything was super tanky. And why was that? Well, because we were playing at difficulty +2, which made everything 6. So it's consistent with every other week that we've had. What we didn't account for was the health pools on these things, on these mobs. At +2 difficulty, for an example, in the first room we have the Algox archers and the guards, okay? The archers, who are traditionally, at least at +0 back when we started, and even at, +0 when, which was 3, for most of the campaign, they have 19 for normal health, and they have 28 health as an elite, which is actually ridiculous. Now, what's weird about them is I don't think the damage has changed. I think it may have gone from 3-4 to 4-6, but it doesn't, like, the damage has stayed the same. They've just buffed them up health-wise, which in this room proved to be a massive problem just because it takes more time. It's more cards, more rounds for us to chew through. The guards, who don't have shield, which is, thank God they didn't add that, have 25 health for normal and 37 health, Gaz.
Yeah.
So if I was to crunch the numbers here, what are we at? 47 and we're at 62. 47, 62, 109? Is that 109?
Sure,
whatever it is. That's how much health worth of things we had to break through in room number 1.
Yep.
Which should be fine because we've got 3 DPS now. Because
we do, yeah, exactly.
Shards on stuff, and I'm, playing tanky, take lots of hits as a thing. This room, what's the strategy in general for dealing with this amount of health?
I think we just tried to CC and delay the archers from shooting for a turn or two while we killed them, and then we killed the other things. I don't think there was a lot. I don't think it was very tactical outside of like try and get in the right places.
The tactical side was more like trying to layer the CC, so make sure that we weren't doubling up. That was probably it, really.
Yeah, because the archers are now at a point, like with that health pool, that we can't burn them, right? Like you can't we don't need to say disarm this one because we can just kill it, because it's kind of out of reach of just instantly just destroying it in one turn, at the start anyway. And so I think it was a little bit of like, okay, we just need to control and mitigate damage for like 2 turns while we kind of just put some damage in, and then we should be able to clean up. Because I think we got to that point pretty quickly where we killed the 2 archers, and then it was just left to the guards, which are relatively easy to work around because they don't, other than I think an attack big attack they do with poison, most of it is just move and attack, right? Annoyingly, they have like a retaliate card, but that's just a turn that you just don't hit them if you can get away with it. So
what would have been really messed up is if there was 1 priest in here, I think.
Oh, the thing is that they aren't doing anything to impact each other, or they're just killing us, right? Like they're soaking damage and killing us. The exception, I think, is the guards do have a strengthen card, so they strengthen themselves though, but not everyone else. So yeah, they're not throwing out CC. They're not stopping us for having turns. They're
not healing.
Well, what? Who heals? The guards?
I'm saying they're not healing.
Oh, yeah, they're not healing. Yeah, so it is really just like a numbers game of like, okay, this is a DPS race in regards to how quickly can we kill them and can we mitigate some of the damage by just stunning them, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. One of the other things that I mentioned earlier was that Mark is on his kelp. Mark is respect his kelp. Mark is sick and tired of absolutely destroying everything. And I love this. He wanted to see what a Bane Crab was going to be like. And it plays around with conditions. He told me straight up he was going to play Skull Collector, which is the card that one of the first cards that we unboxed in the Kelp unboxing, which is the one where the trophies can be spent to put poison on something or muddle on something, and they can also be spent to create dark. So he was just like, he doesn't need it as much now, Detty. All the dark's for you. If you let me know if you need it, I'll create it. And I was like, that's amazing. But on top of that, it was more the setups around Bane, which some of them are like, and this is from observation, I can't remember the cards, but have 3 conditions on something, that becomes a Bane target, or or take. I think there was one where he had to take a bunch of damage, but then he gets the Bane stuff as well, like that was around him. Like it was a different feeling not seeing him burst things down and knowing that we were relying on ticks of the Bane, which, mind you, on a Algos guard is 10 damage out of 37, which not like it's a weird thing. It's almost like a wound.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, when things were being baned that were near to full health, like healthy, and they would go down to still having 20 something health, it was like Bane doesn't seem as good anymore, right?
Yeah.
But again, that's a hit. Yeah, it's a hit for 10. It's just how many hoops you got to jump through.
Do you think Bane should scale?
I don't know. No, nothing else does, right? So, I mean, as a complete side note, and I won't go into this, I think there are some abilities that could benefit from having amD as well. So, like, not maybe as a general thing, but having characters with persistent cards or abilities that, like, I don't know, like when, for example, with the Kelp, you might have a persistent out that says when Bane ticks on something, you can draw an amD, right? So maybe you get a bit of a bonus, or there can be extra things. The thing that would be weird with that is that you can't track it, because if multiple people have Bane, then it doesn't. The other one I was thinking was like Retaliate, and this isn't for the Kelp, but having Retaliate scale in a way of allowing you to draw your amD means someone like you who are retaliating for 1 or 2s, you get some extra bonus out of it, and not just the damage, but you also get some benefits. But I think that just makes it super messy. So
I don't know if we've had that chat already, or if we have a little bit, but I don't know. I don't know if I mentioned. I'm getting a weird flashback right now, a deja vu kind of thing. Did we mention the defensive amD?
Defensive amD?
I don't know if I read it somewhere or if I thought of it, but it was more like if they have a separate amD for defensive, which would be things like Retaliate, which would be things for like Shield, which would be that kind of thing that you can also build up. So when you get hit, you draw from your defensive one, which can be whether or not the attack is worse. Because at the beginning, obviously, it's going to be a bad one until you tweak that deck as well. But it allows more interesting, I don't know, mechanics built in from a, something walks into a certain range. If it walks adjacent to you, you get to draw from it. But different classes have different ways of interacting with the defensive amD.
So, and this is going completely off tangent.
Oh, sorry, off topic.
Just, so are you saying you have an attack amD, right?
Yes.
Well, that's what the A and
the traditional
right?
one.
And then but you also have a defensive modifier deck.
Yeah.
So you have 2.
Yep.
Oh, no, because all these 6 deck monster people who hate that are going to freak out, because that's 2 decks
they don't
manage.
They don't have it because their stuff's nice and vanilla.
I think this is one of those things that in a digital implementation of something like this becomes super easy to do, because it's all automated and it's set and forget of customize your deck and then go. I think once you get to actually on the table, having an extra deck you need to draw from in certain circumstances when you get attacked, it just becomes messy. That's, again, the same thing I was thinking about with having Retaliate be draw an amD, draw from your amD. I was like, it just adds more bloat when it probably doesn't really matter. Yeah. Like, most of the time it's going to average out, so just make it they take damage, which I think works. Yeah.
It could become amD the board game, because you could have a movement amD. So you move 2, and then you go, I hope I can move slightly further. Oh, +1, I get to keep moving. And then, you could have a condition one. It's like, he hits me. I wonder what condition I'm going to get. So
I feel like, that's kind of, it's interesting, right? Because once that's feeling is almost the traditional, I don't want to use the word, like, dungeon crawler, like a full luck dungeon crawler. Like, I think of something like Hero Quest, right? You roll dice to move, you roll dice to attack, you roll dice to defend.
Yep.
Like, you roll dice to
everything. Do they have events in Hero Quest? You roll dice to resolve an event or something, and it's got like a chart?
There's no charts. It's simpler than that. But I mean, like, you do draw from a deck when you search, and when you search, it can be nothing. It can be treasure. It can be a monster. So like, that's just that pure everything is random. And that is the case where you go, I need to move 4 spaces to attack this monster, and you roll Snake Eyes, and you're like, guess I'm not attacking this turn. I will do something else with my 2 movement, which again, that's the difference, with that randomness. There's a lot less planning. It's more like Monopoly. I'm going to roll the dice and then work out what I do from where I land.
Yeah,
Not
okay.
I can plan my turn ahead, because you can't.
Yeah.
It's really just.
I think I like Hero Quest. Sounds awesome. Sounds like chaotic, like rage inducing. But yeah, no, it sounds like my kind of game. I love that. So yeah, Mark respected bait. So the whole scenario is basically you got these 3 rooms that are tied together, and once you've cleared them all, it unlocks the last room. And in each room, you've got the different monster varieties. So once we've cleared the first room, we went into the middle room, and we had a steel automaton and 2 more archers, which we killed the archers. We don't kill the automaton because that'd be ridiculous. And it's, what
because
is
it has like
48
48 health and 3 shields, right?
26 health actually, but 4 shield, yeah.
4 shields, sorry.
And that's if it doesn't pull the shield card. It's hitting for 4 and 7, and it's immune to disarm and poison, which is some of the things that we like to do.
Yeah. And
so those immunities were cooking.
Yeah, if you refer to our last 3 scenarios where we've had priests with 4 shields, I think they had 5, but that was a mistake. Last week we had the amulets, which were bumping up the yetis to have 5 shields, all right, or the skeletons to have 4 shields. So we've now gone through 2 or 3 scenarios where we've fought things that have something that has 4+ shields, and we've talked about how hard it is for our group to get through those shields.
Yep. Yeah. And then you have the immunities on top of that. It's kind of gross. So while we're dancing around with the steel automaton, we go and open another door just to see what's inside. Nice small room. We got 2 polar bears, and then we had to fight those, bring those back out. They hit like trucks. It's just
and they have 98 health or something like that.
36.
Yeah.
So they're one off the Algox guard, but they're both elite. So yeah, 36 health, 4 to 6 attack, innate wound, immune to immobilize, stun, and disarm. So we had stuns in our group. So all of a sudden, these become the deadliest things in the world. And then on the other side of the room, we've got 2 claw crushers, again elite, and they've strangely. This is thinking me back to the Caliga quiz. Their health, right, from a distance point of view, the normals are 21, and the elite was 22. Which I was like, it's the next closest probably gap. So just remember that in case he tries to pull another quiz with, what's the second closest gap or something like that after ice rates. The scary thing with everything that we uncovered had a scary thing going on about it that we would never have thought of in the past. So with the claw crushers, they have an innate target too. They've always done that. But now because they're hitting for 4 and 6, but targeting 2 and impairing. Every time they do it, all of a sudden they're terrifying.
Yep.
Right, claw crushers, which I'm pretty sure are near the bin. They're in the rim area, along with a lot of other things, are becoming scary. So we have to then deal with a room of all of these high health, high shield, but real doing so much damage to all of us. And here I am taking an absolute beating. It's just a Royal Rumble going on in that particular section, and I don't think I think I exhaust in this room. Right, I exhaust in this room because I just, not from taking too much damage.
End of it, right?
There was one situation where I had a wound on me that caused me to, discard a card for the wound because I was on 1 health with it, and taking all that damage. I've got the cracked idol from my previous one, but then I was permanently impaired. Yeah. So it's so gross. But the boys clear them, and I think we've definitely established that we weren't going to finish the scenario, or we weren't going to make it. But we wanted to see the last room.
Once we saw the last room, yeah, I think going into it, we were pretty sure, unless it was just 1 monster. We still didn't know what we were using the boss deck for, right? So if it had been 1 monster with very little special rules that was just on 100 health, maybe we burned through it, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it was looking a bit grim going into that last room.
It was. And in that last room, we expected, because the 2 side rooms only had 2 things each, we expected a small room because we were all feeling a bit owie, and no. There's a flaming blade spinner in there with 2 dudes pinned either side of him. And there are 2 elite archers and 2 guards, 1 normal and 1 elite. We've already talked about how much health they have.
Yeah.
So it's that along with the blade spinner, which I believe had 24 health, right? The 2 dudes have 32 health, and the special rule ultimately is we now use the monster special deck, and whenever we draw their card, they will perform that action. If it's boss special 1, then one of the dudes hits the flaming blade spin. It does an attack 4 or something like that, and then if we do boss special 2, the second dude goes, oh, it's my turn. I'll do a little heal and target everything, all allies within range 2. And, you know, we got a blade spinner in there who's just, the special rule is he can't move. The blade spinner just stands there and just blades, you know, the 2 dudes that are there. And if if both of the dudes die, we lose the scenario.
Yeah.
Which already seemed like it was going to be a thing. And then you
well,
got
they had a lot.
archers.
They had a decent amount of health, but yeah, you're right. They were just going to sit there and get wailed on. So, I thought it was a really cool twist that the boss monster deck was going to be used for basically our allies. Yeah. I thought that was cool. So I guess maybe that's one reason to a bit of a diversion there. Or so.
Nice
the other thing that you that made the blade spinner scary is on
Retaliate 5.
difficult. Yeah, Retaliate 5. Retaliate 5. 5. So it basically means that anytime boss special 1 came up, which was guard, attack, dude, like the blade spinner, that also said attack for 4 and take 5 damage.
Yeah, it is tradition though that any allies for us also draw badly. So I'm pretty sure he also drew a null.
Yes.
So he didn't actually hit him with his first card and then took 5 damage. And it's like, of course. Stupid. But no, that was the room. The boys tried their hardest and just fell short. It was just, there was a bit where Phil exhausted, Mark exhausted, and then it was up to Gaz. And that was cool because we were all cheering him on and, you know, it just wasn't to be. It just looked absolutely helpless. And we lost. And this is the bit where I say, but, you know, we put it all back up and we reset it up and went again, right?
100%. We stayed there till 2 a.m.
We didn't.
We just copped being shit, right? Like being losers.
I don't know. Like, we'll jump into like talking about this scenario and how we feel about it all. I didn't mind losing. I don't know if that.
Ooh.
Oh, it's a weird feeling. It's not that I didn't mind losing. It egged me on and made me want to do it.
Now you're okay with losing all the time.
Well, we had a chat about afterwards and it was like, do we need to beat this? Do we need to beat this in order to, you know, complete the thing? Otherwise, we have to do this next week and all of that. And me and Mark sat there and we had a bit of a chat about it. And Mark and I sort of both came to the conclusion that we both, and you may or may not feel the same, feel like, no, I hate the fact that this has beaten us and we want to do this. And you made a good point. You were like, yeah, but we wouldn't either drop the difficulty either because that's like another defeatist kind of, I don't know, feeling, right?
Yeah, well, this is it, basically. And to be super transparent with people, we came through and there were three options, right? Three of them. Yeah. Okay. 1, we just go somewhere else. It's a side scenario. We're just really kind of not killing time, but trying to explore the rest of the game before we finish it. So we just go no. Mm-hmm. It has a linked scenario to it, like that's afterwards, which is kind of, if it was only a one-off, I'd almost say yes, we just leave it because we've pretty much experienced what it was and we can talk about it. Like we could review this as a scenario because we have seen the whole thing, but there's one hiding after it and I really want to know what's there. So that brought in the second option. We just say that we did it, okay, and we just move forward, right? We talk about this and we're like, hey, in the end I pulled my crit and we won.
It's fine.
You know, we haven't done that at all ever. We've talked about that not being cool. I don't think any of us, even though that is one of the options, even remotely went, yeah, that's fine. Or we repeat it, right? And we actually do it. Now, the repeating of it then kind of splints off into 2 other sub ones. Do we drop the difficulty or do we not? Right. And I feel like the conversation ended up being, if we're going to drop the difficulty by 1 or 2, then we may as well just say we did it. Like, if we're going to make this trivial, because on 0, I don't think it would be easy. I think, though, we are good enough and we know our characters well enough that we could probably do it. Yep. Right. Then we may as well just say that we did it and move on. But I feel like for us and where we're at with the game and the enjoyment we're getting out of the game, it kind of just all ended up landing on, if we are redoing this, it has to be at +2. Yeah. That's it. Yeah. So our options came leave or redo it on +2 because we weren't going to just say we did it.
Yeah. What helps is that it wasn't a giant admin-y kind of scenario. It wasn't like the ooze boss.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, you mentioned that. Yeah.
If the rules are clean, it just... It means that afterwards I sat there with my cards and I was going through it and I was like, cool, I wouldn't bring that. I really needed this card. And it already got me thinking about if I was to repeat it, and I got excited by that. I was really excited by, okay, cool. We got booked by this particular scenario. I want to beat it. So how can we beat it? It's not scenario's too hard. It's not scenarios, bullshit, impossible, etc. It's like, no, this is really in our control. Let's put our heads together and do this. And I think that it's really cool to also play with a group of people who have that similar mindset.
Yep.
Otherwise,
I mean, we haven't checked with Phil. So Phil, by the way, you were doing it again next week.
we will smash it out quickly. And if we fail the second time, then we'll do, I think it was option 2, and tell everyone that we did it.
I mean, we just did it, right? That's it.
Oh yeah, we did do it.
Now people won't know. Now people are going to doubt us. The credibility is shot because we were honest. It's like next week when we say we did it, they'll be like, "Well, did you do it or did you not do it?" So
they don't know that every mob starts with brittle on them and all the other things that
that's
the
true.
house rules.
Yeah, the house rule. Just cheat a little, right?
Just cheat a little.
Check out.
What were your thoughts on scenario 87?
Yeah, I think when you're doing a kill all, we ranted about that before, so I won't go back into that stuff. I think this is the kind of way you want to do it. The challenge here is that things are tough. They're all the big kind of punching bag monsters, which is good with a little bit of DPS thrown in there from like the archers. And it's relatively straightforward. Like this feels like a Gloomhaven scenario until the special rules in the last room.
Yeah.
I feel like if this was Gloomhaven, it would have just been some monsters and a boss. Yeah, that would have been it, right? Or an objective or something. Like there's an altar there, you've got to kill that thing and then kill the monsters. But no, I don't know. I had fun. I had fun with the puzzle of trying to solve it. The question I have to keep asking though is, would I have had fun on this scenario if it was at +0 like we've been playing most of our campaign?
Oh, funny you should say that. I was literally just bringing up just one monster, which is the Algos Guard, and I'm just saying if it was +0, let's just say scenario 3 or 4, level 3 or 4. At level 3, their health for normal is 12, so it goes from like 25 to 12, and elite 19, so 19 to 37.
That's on 3?
That's on 3.
So on a 4, is our party level 4, right?
4 is our party level. So if we went with 4, which was +0, it would be 15 and 22.
Yeah, so that's like way less. Like, yeah, that's what I mean. That
first room would have been just exploded, and it would have been like, okay, and then we'd be sitting here going, yeah, it was fine. It was, we opened the door to the room. There were 2 polar bears in there. It took 1 round. We completely killed both of them. We moved on,
And I think party makeup has a massive thing to do with this as well. Because again, if we jump back to when we had a lot more pure damage, to get through things like shields, we have a lot more CC or just really big burst damage. Again, at +0, that just becomes even more trivial. So yeah, I agree. I enjoyed playing this scenario. I don't know if it's I'm probably going to forget about it. Although it's one of the few we've lost, so I'll probably remember it forever now. But I think the scenario itself is fine. It's vanilla, right? And everyone loves vanilla. And I think the difficulty is what made it challenging. I think that's the kind of 2 ways I'm almost evaluating scenarios now. Like, was the design fun? Yeah, it was fine. Was it challenging? Yes, but only because we made it harder.
Yeah. Yeah. I like what they did with the last room with the blade spinner. I like that unique twist of, as soon as I saw it, I saw 2 guys kind of like, I don't know, lying down like James Bond style with, the villain, and he's just sitting there with his saws, and he's just like, your turn, and now your turn, and all of that. And there's a timer as all the guards who have just seen us burst through the door are now coming over to deal with us. And I thought that was really cool. I like the tension that comes with that.
Yeah, it's a good timer to have without saying unlimited spawns or you lose in 5 rounds, right?
Yeah.
And the other thing that's really cool that it mileage kind of varies depending on group makeup is that there are quite a lot of, or there's a few classes or characters in Frosthaven that interact with allies. So there are things like the Banner Spear, for example, right? Could move and use them in the formations, and there's heals, there's things to use. So there's all these other little kind of benefits to tactic and strategy that come from putting allies on the board and having them stationary near not like the boss, even though we had to kill everything, is another interesting one. It means you can heal them and interact with them in other ways. So yeah, I think it's a cool way to spice up the scenario rather than just put a boss or an inanimate object you have to wail on.
Yeah. The +2 has made the last few scenarios feel very different and given us a new appreciation for the monsters, definitely. Like there's a natural fear when we see them. And it's definitely, like if we, was it last week? I don't know, I think it was the 121 we did 2 weeks ago, the one where Phil got mind controlled. And like, that was at +2 and it felt like not as tough as some of the other +2. So it's also interesting to sort of gauge that obviously it's not going to be everything is equal.
Yeah.
But seeing the different ranges within that +2 and how, we have to deal with it. Tactical combat game, guys.
Yep.
How would it be if we brought another ally into the scenario?
Old mate Ormy.
Yeah.
I think on this difficulty, he dies.
Yes.
We can't kill everything quick enough, and he will just get in there being like, don't worry, boys, I got this, and then he'll die.
I think there's multiple mobs that will clean him up, because we would have to have someone next to the auto, because we left the automaton. We left it. And sort of kited that around the room while we started bringing in the polar bears. And he would then, we would have to have someone next to the automaton going earlier than Ormy's initiative to make sure that they were taking the hit instead of him.
Yeah.
And then,
this is not a good one for him.
No. And then you got +2 target from local claw crushers. And then by the time you got a retaliate 5 dude in there. Like, if we even get to that bit.
He's not getting there, right? Like, if we got Ormy to the end and then he died on the retaliate 5, then I feel like that's our fault. In some way.
Yeah, no, that's true. Community-wise, I didn't find much apart from that thread that led to that rant. And yeah.
Cool.
I don't have battle goals and I don't have look, do I go into
No.
Okay.
Nah.
And then I forgot to take a photo of the DPS and send it to Mark so he can create me a lovely chart. But I have it here. And it would be ashamed if I didn't take a photo and send it to him so I can get a lovely chart so I couldn't read it here. But Gaz, on the shards, absolutely killing it with 107. Now, there's a card you use in the shards. It's the one that I think needs earth that lets you nuke something. And then it does split damage to other units. And it's pure damage as well. It's not like an additional attack that you have built into your repertoire that has been seeing some amazing results from it, especially when you pull that that ×2.
Yeah.
Or the target's brittled, which I don't know if we've managed to combo the ×2 and the brittle that have led to some massive swing turns.
Yeah.
Especially on the high shield targets. I love it. How are you finding, I guess, that particular playstyle? Are you happy to finally have a card that has a great payoff and a couple of hoops to jump through?
Yeah, well, like the earth just makes it better. There's a couple of other resources that I can use to make it better. So I think it functions normally, but the way it works is it's hits a target and then does less damage to 2 things within range 2. So you kind of want to just pump up the damage as much as you can on that primary target. Yeah, I haven't really played a real pure damage character in this, and I feel like this isn't a pure damage one, but I'm kind of playing it as one. I think it does have the capability of. But even speccing for items that way, like the last time we went back to Frosthaven, I got like a bow, like a 2-handed bow, and I got a power pot, really so that I could buff up certain turns. And it's been cool. It's been cool having items that I'm using to combo with my cards rather than, I don't know, if I go all the way through playing, the crab was all defensive items. Banner Spear was a mix of different things, a mix of different items, some support, some utility. My prism was all utility items. So now it's kind of like I've swapped out a couple of things and I've just been like, nah, I'm just going to use these items to make my cards do more. And it's kind of a bit of fun. It's a different puzzle I haven't really played with that much. So.
Yeah. No, what I love that it's not just a simple matter of you're targeting something and it's blowing them up. Because of that range 2, you're having to plan ahead. And because of shielding units, it's almost like you want to bait something that doesn't have shield in there to take the brunt of it so that the pure damage can go on to the other thing. So there are other fun considerations. And I know that your eyes light up when the monsters just happen to create that formation, and you're like, oh, Detty, can you make grass? And I'm like, yeah, here you go. And then, it's really cool to see. The biggest excitement comes from the fact if you have used or if you haven't planned your strengthen, that's the part that, is the tension.
Yeah, well, this is the one we were talking about last week or the week before, where it's like has a, I don't know, 66% chance to draw a miss because I did 2 out of 3 times I missed. So this one I've just been pairing up with the strengthen to make sure that I can't miss unless I have curses, in which case then it's going to have a 100% chance to miss. So
good strategy.
Yeah.
Something I only just thought about, actually. I would have loved to have done this scenario and exactly this scenario on the media, just because of those high health things and doing the double. I actually think that would have been a great spot for it, because unfortunately, some like the whole way playing the media, especially with the double build that I was playing around with, a lot of times you're doing like, if things go well, you're doing 30 plus damage to something that has 12 health and it's overkill. Whereas it would have been really nice here.
Yeah. This is one that I also, for the same reasons, would have liked to do on the Prism. Because of that, but like the high level Prism, I didn't play for very long, and we were doing scenarios where we were way overpowered for the scenario. So, I had cards. I won my level 9 card, I think it was, gave me 3 attacks, and I think the 2 or 3 times I used it, I got through 2 of the attacks, and there was nothing left to kill. So this again would have been one that I'd enjoy to just try to see how I go full DPS on. Yeah.
Well, that just makes me think, when we do 2.0, do we start at +1 or +2?
I think we have to, right?
Well, we kind of have to, right?
Yeah. I especially if we're going to be playing through it once, I think we at least start at +2 and see how we go. Right? I'm genuinely interested to know, and not from the sweat lords who are like because we're not going to read guides and we're not going to analyze everything and go like, oh, how do we eke out everything from our class based on how other people have solved the puzzle already? We'll do that ourselves, right? But it'd be, well, no, I mean, as in we're going to play our cards, we're going to work out our combos ourselves. We're not going to go to outside influences to try and find the best way of playing. Yeah. So it'd be interesting to know whether we should be playing at +1 or +. I definitely think we play at least +1. But whether +2 is just asking for trouble, or if it's really that's the reality, because we do a +2, we're going to have to repeat scenarios. It's going to happen.
What'll be cool is if we're doing the playthroughs and people actually watching, the actual playthrough of us attempting something at a +2. There are people out there that would be open to any feedback. If we're getting stomped, or if I'm just not performing, or feel like I'm performing and I'm making a bunch of mistakes, I'd be open to, that kind of feedback of people saying, hey, have you considered using this card before that one? Because it's going to, if I don't see it, I'll be like, oh, that's a great idea. Thank you. So, instead of, hell, people can look up the guides and give me a snippet of what they think that I should do to tweak whatever. Yeah. And that's something that we could do in 2.0. I don't know. That's the only way we'll, I guess, like if we are getting stomped consistently, we'll probably turn it down a little bit. But yeah, it'll allow people to provide interesting comments about certain gameplay decisions and things like that.
Yeah. The other thing is, we can look towards, because it's the +2 or +1, +2, +0, etc. is all putting you at an overall level, right? Like if we are, say, like average character level 4 and we do a +1, then the scenario is level 5, right? Is that the way that works?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So if we were
I was half paying attention, but yeah. Sorry.
I'm just talking about like maybe there's a sweet spot for scenario level rather than plus or minus level. So like we're playing on +2, but that's actually putting us up to +6. Like maybe 5, for example, is the sweet spot where monsters get to have enough health to do their thing. Maybe they get, like, I don't know. Like they'd be interested again from people who have played it. Is there a sweet spot? Because that way then you scale it, right? Like we start at level 1 and maybe as we're level 2, level 3, that's when we push it as close to 5. Maybe we don't want to do like +4 because that sounds rough. But maybe that's what we need to be looking at, is like kind of keeping the scenario at a level difficulty rather than always having a plus.
I like that. I really like that. It'd be interesting to see kind of how that kind of works. And in keeping the consistency of, like you say, +1 or +2, whatever it is, make it hit 5, because that way we're getting the same. The only thing with that is that you'll know that every single scenario being done from a certain point, the mobs or certain mobs will have the exact same health. And other things that scale, like attack and all of that. Like, we'll know that at +6 right now, if we were to continue on, that every Algox guard is going to have 37 health, and that we need something to deal with that.
But that's not a bad thing. But yeah, anyway, it's something to explore. And if people have thoughts about it, then share them with us, because we're only just kind of exploring this whole difficulty thing. And so it'd be good to get other people's thoughts who have played. I know some of the people we've talked to in our community have played Gloomhaven 2 or 3 times, right? So like, what worked for you? Were you just setting it at like +2, +3 from like the start and just banging through it? Or have you found better ways of working out what's fun?
And were you playing with 4 people, or were you playing 4 people solo?
Yeah, that makes a difference, right?
A little bit.
Well, I mean, when I played digitally, it was just me and my mate. We were controlling 2 characters each, and we played at +2, I think, for the whole thing, basically. But you have so much more synergy there, because A, you can talk to each other, and you're only planning with one other person. But B, the cards that one of the other characters is going to play, and so it's so much easier to kind of plan around that, even if you're not saying exactly what you're doing. So,
yeah. All right. So, Gaz, out of all the classes you've played, is it fair to say you've enjoyed all of them?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, nice. Have you enjoyed? You've obviously enjoyed some more than others, but there's not any that you have disliked.
I haven't disliked any of the characters. I haven't played any of them being like, I'm not having fun. No.
Yeah, okay. Because I've liked pretty much every character that I've been given, and I like the fact that the game has, 17 classes from memory. So if it's got 17 classes that I know of in the game, you're going to have some that, if I was to play all 17, there's a chance you're going to find some that don't mesh with your playstyle. And I think some of the ones that have circulated in a lot of discussion groups will be things like Prism and things like Trap, etc., etc.
Geminate.
Definitely Geminate. I'm playing the Astral, as we know, and when we first unboxed it, I was really excited. I was really excited for just the whole shtick around the infusions and all the elements, and just this Claymore using character with the actual pet. It had a little bit of everything, and it just felt like, I don't know, a real playground of a character that can be played in many different ways. I really don't enjoy Astral. And I might be alone in this, and I don't want to start is it just me, or because I know there's going to be other people out there who will be in a similar boat. And there'll be people out there who, for the same reason, don't like Snowflake and don't like the others, etc. I'm just not having a good time. And I think we've done like, I'm going to guess here and take a stab. It's like 12 or 13 maybe now is Astral, I reckon. And yeah, every time I level up and I have a look at my new cards and everything, I get a little pang of excitement. And in fact, every single time we sit down and play, I get excited again. It's just at the end of every scenario playing the Astral, I don't feel good. And I'm trying to pinpoint kind of what that is. And I think it's coming down to the headache of the infusions. The cost of the infusions is obviously elements that you need to line up. And I'm in a luxurious spot now compared to the beginning, where I've actually got 2 other characters in the party who can assist me with creating those elements to make the infusions easier. I haven't read anything up on it, which we just, you just pointed out, we like to work it out ourselves, and that's kind of what we've been doing with the past characters. But yeah, I'm running into situations where it's kind of like the whole shtick of the class is the infusions add this passive ability, which seem borderline, well, not broken, but they really enhance the character from movement and jump, like +1 movement and jump to all of your things forever, to every attack, muddle and poison, muddle and wound, and all of that kind of stuff. And it's built into the character, yet whenever I bring them out, especially early-ish, I find I run out of cards real quick, because it's like persistence. It's like when you want to run around as the Drifter with your 4 persistence out for your mastery, you're down to 8 cards, depending on how quickly you get them out. And then, of course, it snowballs that exhaustion. And that's kind of what I'm running into at the moment, is that last scenario we just did, I put 2 out, just 2 infusions out at the beginning, which then makes my hand limit 9. And then I just feel like I'm not even burning cards for burns, but I just keep finding that I can't last as long as you guys. And it's just getting a little frustrating. Now I could go in and the other thing, I think someone mentioned, oh, maybe don't play too many infusions too quickly. I'm like, oh, that's a great idea. Oh, then it's an attack 3. A lot of the cards also are paired to pairs of infusions. So it's like shield 1, but +1 for every pair of infusions, or retaliate 1, or attack 1, attack 3, and movement and all that. And I'm not enjoying it. I miss the old days of even the hoops that I jumped through with the media of preparing. I feel like I'm actively doing things that to reach a goal that I have in my head of how I would like to play it. And I just can't for the life of me work that out with the Astral. What are your thoughts?
I am seeing you not having fun, and I think I have an answer which I've mentioned, but I don't want to go into in case you want me to.
Is it respec?
Yeah, I think that honestly, the tank.
I don't think it's just that. I think it's the infusion thing. I actually think it's the infusion thing as a whole and managing the hand size so I don't exhaust. Because if I go into whatever, I still gonna want those to boost a more DPS style Astral.
Yeah.
And no, but carry on. Yeah.
Oh, I think that the problem is that you don't get a lot of payout for your infusions because of the kind of archetype that you're playing. So if you had +1 movement and jump, and I know a couple of others are like, the wound and muddle, or I'm sure there's some more offensive ones, plus the ability to, I know I'm just going from memory here, but when you play one, you trigger all the other ones you've done. Yeah. Right. At the moment, those things are like disarm something or gain ward or gain extra retaliate, maybe. I don't know. I'm just kind of probably mixing up abilities. If those were a free attack, right, or stuff like that, then it becomes more impactful.
The move and jump one is an attack. I just don't, because you're when you're crafting, I guess, your deck for a particular scenario and an objective, I've got like 5 or 6 infusions to pick from, and I've got to narrow it down. Otherwise, my hands is full of infusions, and the other side of those infusions aren't exactly, ground shaking. But yes, I'm hearing what you're saying.
And the only reason is I don't know the class because I've only done the unboxing a while ago and I messed all of that up anyway. So I'm just from my experience of playing the crab, which I played very defensively, the reason why that was still fun was because I was able to play defensively, but then very quickly switch into offense. Because you play a few tide cards, you get your defensive stuff out, and then I was able to go at least once per cycle, I was able to have 1 or 2 turns where I just burst damage because I was like, you know what, I can just play attacks now, right?
Yeah.
Because I was able to do that. The Banner Spear, I played hybrid. I didn't really tank, but I did play a bit more supporty. But again, I was able to almost wax and wane between supporting people and then going there's an opportunity for me to do a style, what are they called? Not styles, it's style. Positional formation. That's it, formation. To do a formation that's going to be impactful. And that could be a heal somebody, it could be a disarm, there's a whole bunch of range of different options. So I was looking at my thing of a tactical offensive thing, but I was able to jump backwards and forwards. And so it doesn't look like you have the capability of doing that because a lot of yours are around status effects, defensiveness, your tankingness. Also the fact that you're getting so many curses in the deck and we're just not drawing them doesn't help. But all of that stuff, again, applying statuses to stuff doesn't feel fun. Right? It's not going to be the funnest part of playing a character. And I feel like that's what you're doing a lot. You're applying a lot of statuses and you're getting hit. And neither of those things are all that interesting because they're very passive. You just got to be in the right place and then play your cards. And so I think it's not the character and it's not the way you've chosen to play the character. I think it's just there are archetypes in the game that can be less interactive than others, and the defensive-ish statusy kind of thing can be that way. I don't want people coming at me from other characters going I have heaps of fun, as Shackle's just throwing, kind of things on everybody. I'm like, yeah, great, that's fine. I'm not saying you can't have fun with it. I'm just saying that could be a reason and even when you played the Snowflake, which you played as a support, right? You were building up these turns and you were interacting with the board a lot.
Yeah.
Right? You might not have been attacking all the time, but you were attacking, you were moving things around, you were controlling things, which was active. You had a puzzle to solve.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like you have a puzzle to solve now, because once you get your infusions out, you're like, oh, now I just have to be next to things. That's what I'm seeing from how you play. And then you add that into the fact that you are kind of exhausting quickly, because the more infusions you go out, the less kind of stamina you have. I think that all plays into it. But that's just, again, from without knowing the cards and without a solution, that's what I'm saying. So
yeah, okay. That I thank you. I like a lot of that. It's good, because ultimately my point is, like, people aren't. We've had this chat in amDirt chats with people, your least favorite class and all that kind of stuff. Like, let's just use a couple of the examples I gave earlier regarding trap. Like, trap is a very controversial one because it, plays with the board and all that. Do you think that you could have fun with the trap?
Me, myself? Yeah, I think so. But I think that not to go into detail with that, but the difference is with that, I'd have to find out how the trap has fun. But yeah, I feel like I could find something. I don't know if I'd love it. But that's not us saying I wouldn't. I just don't know, because I haven't really looked through the cards.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Because I know, like, Phil's played drill, and I think he was a bit ho-hum, and maybe he was okay with it as well. But it's like, yeah, it's interesting to see people gravitate towards certain types and all that kind of stuff. Because I don't mind playing more of a utility. In fact, last scenario we did, I didn't bring my disarm and I didn't bring my brittle, which I think would have been game changing, which I have brought a lot in the past, but I opted to bring in, I saw all the melee that were in there, and I was just like, no, I'm going to tank it up and, play with some retaliate. I've got one active retaliate card, which I need to time properly, which is always problematic unless we can foresee what they're going to do next, thanks to you. But yeah, there's like, that's what I mean. Next week we're going to play. I'm going to go in again, and I'm going to, change the deck up a bit. And I'm literally looking forward to doing it again.
Yeah.
And bringing different toys and playing it again. I'm just saying, as a whole, not a fun character for me.
Yeah.
That's all.
It's interesting because, I mean,
I love the design. Love the design. I actually do.
Yeah.
And this is my point with the Intrepid reference. Love the astral design. I think it's great. And I know it makes sense why people love it. And it's their, some of their favorites. But yeah. Just not fun for me, and I won't know until I've played it, which I'm now playing.
Yeah, that's because I felt like I guess my controversial have fun with character feelings are around the Banisphere.
That's a good point.
I enjoyed the Banisphere, and I understand why it's fun, and actually would love to play it more again, right? Because of the different ways I could play it differently, but I also felt like it lacked in I got to pick the right word here. Excitement. Like a lot of the stuff as you were leveling up was just more of the same, which is fine, because if that was your jam, then it was your jam. And that was so I guess and I only bring that one up because I know there's so much love for the Banisphere out there. So I enjoyed playing it. And again, as I said, I wouldn't not play it again. But I think there's different characters that I think you mentioned this the other night are going to gel or resonate with people in different ways.
Yeah.
And we've heard that about like a whole bunch of different characters that we've said, oh, such and such didn't really enjoy that. And people are like, oh, wow, that was like my favorite character. So, I think
that.
So much of it has to do with what the character does and how you want to play, but also your party makeup, who are you playing with, what scenarios do you do it in, right? Because you can there are strings of scenarios where you go, this is a shit one for that character. Being on the prison with heaps of summons, I know that there was a couple that we did that were not good for summons. If we had done 3 or 4 more that were really bad for summons, I'd probably look at that and go like, it's okay, but like the game doesn't really let it do its thing because you're stuck in this space where you can't use most of your cards. So that also, I think, has a lot to do with it.
Yeah, no, it's some really good points, and just wanted to have that discussion with you about.
Yeah, just so hashtag Detty respec, right? Like that's what we're getting on board.
I'll consider it.
Yeah,
I'll consider it. Eventually I'm gonna have to put out a review, and I don't want to sit there and just vomit on the bench. So yeah, like I'm trying to give it a really red hot go.
Yeah.
And like I said, I do appreciate the design. I think the design is really cool. But it's, it's like finding a brilliant game or a book or a movie or something that everyone else loves, and just doesn't gel with me.
Yeah.
It's just one of those.
That's the problem. But then the argument is like, yeah, but I watched it on the plane, right? Or, oh, yeah, but I read it on my phone. And so it's like, it's not the same experience everyone else got because it wasn't in the same environment. And I would say that the other thing that is important, I think you're actually being really impactful in the scenarios. And so this is where the conversation needs to be. So just to be like really clear from what I'm hearing, it's not that the Astral isn't good. It's that you're not enjoying the playing that you're having with it, which is very different. Because I am watching what you're doing and seeing the impact on the scenarios, and you are having a very big impact. But unfortunately, that impact isn't kind of translating into lots of fun. Which,
good way of putting it.
Yeah, that's the other thing as well. So don't come at us with like, oh, the Astral's OP and it's great. Like, yeah, we acknowledge that it has good cards. We're just specifically talking about your experience with that, which I think we've been pretty consistent on, like when we talk about good and bad scenarios, right? Like there's ones we hated because we had a shit time with it, and other people are like, what do you mean that was great? So it's about experience, not design.
Yeah. No, I love that. Yeah. And we'll delve more into that, I guess, with other people's hates. I need to make sure that I can zoom in and magnify in our amDirt chat sessions, what do you not like about the game? What do you not like about, what classes do you not like? What do you not like about your life? Let's just keep going into this level of negativity. No,
positive.
I appreciate the chat.
Where's the positive change?
Oh, shit, that was my New Year's resolution. I totally forgot about it. Positive Detty.
That's it.
Oh, well.
Turn that Astral upside down.
We will wrap it up there. Thank you very much for tuning in to episode 77 of A Master's Degree in Rolling Terribly. Join us next week as we repeat, I believe, scenarios 87. We should be done with that in about half an hour, 45 minutes. And then, yeah, we can play a mystery scenario. I don't know, we'll draw it from the bag, something nice.
From the bag.
Yeah.
I think we've got a bit of a list of ones we want to do, but let's get through this one first.
Yeah, well, it'll unlock the chain, which will be a force link. And this might be one of the rare instances where a force link doesn't bother anyone.
I think it's optional link. It is actually optional force link. Yeah.
Okay, there you go. I have been your host, Detty, and joining me, as always, is Gaz.
And remember, when it comes to rolling terribly, it's all in the wrist.